Besides the bubble soccer that you see here, some of the other activities that we're planning for are Quidditch and LARPing, and one that I've seen recently called Zorbing. And I'd love to hear from any of you after the presentation if there's some more unique activities that are being planned for on college campuses. But there's actually leagues and intercollegiate club sports and all of these activities. So it's pretty exciting and it's fun, and it's all being done on artificial turf. We're seeing artificial turf used extensively now in parks, public parks. And the list of activities is numerous. This particular field, that long list of activities was all being played at the same time. So in addition to special events. And we're also seeing synthetic turf now even at the elementary school level. I was in a presentation earlier here at the conference, and this is called the Space to Grow program, where school grounds are being converted into using green infrastructure, not only to create safer play environments, but really helping with stormwater management in communities. So, we're seeing synthetic turf, and I'm sure all of you are, in a variety of types of projects. So today, this panel of experts would like to discuss with you some of the ongoing research in player-surface interaction, frequency of concussions, emerging industry trends, and most importantly, the role of the landscape architect in recreational surface design and assessment. So I'm going to turn it over to Jeff, and he'll kick this off.
Thanks, Paul. Good morning. I've been thinking about this for quite a while. We've been working in recreational sports, even at the pro level, for probably almost 2 decades. And I was fortunate enough to be invited to a sports summit that Dan put together, in which Chris was one of the keynote speakers, and that was about 3 years ago. And it literally changed my practice in terms of understanding the responsibility for landscape architects. Certainly with health, safety, and welfare and concussions. And, we put this abstract in probably about January or February, I recall. And since that date, it has continued to maintain a lot of media headlines in terms of how important and how information is coming out every couple of days. Actually, when we were here, some new headlines came out on CTE and their findings. So when you look at concussions, which have been dramatically unreported in most of sports, about 25% of the almost 3.8 million concussions occur with head-to-surface impact. And that's something we're directly relatable when we're designing surfaces. So what I'd like to do is give a little brief background on some of the field testing that we've done, and give you a primer a little bit on what GMAX is and what it measures. So GMAX is technically a measurement of de-acceleration. So you take a hammer with a weight and you drop it on the surface, and the quicker it de-accelerates, the sharper the energy transfer back to whatever object hits that. So in the standard F355 tests, we'll look at 3 hits, and I think they've changed it. You look at a conditioning hit and then 3 hills, and you average those to get GMAX measurements. And most of our research over the last decade has been focused on that. So at the start of this sort of evaluation, a GMAX of 200 was considered the baseline for safety. And we found that looking at these types of facilities, GMAX of 200 is considered a life-altering impact or change. equal to that potential. So it's been important in looking at trying to adjust and trying to ratchet down the standards for surfaces so that we can get them hopefully into the sub 100 range and maintain those so that the likelihood of injury is going to be reduced. What's unique about testing on this GMAX is that it's not a definitive sort of answer. It's a probability of injury. So just because you have a GMAX doesn't necessarily mean there's a straight relationship with a concussion, but the probability exists at a high rate. So this is the standard F355 test that's been in place probably for a couple decades. And what we found as we were designing fields and looking at it, that it was only 6 or 8 points, and it didn't really give you a very good understanding of the performance of the field. It gave you an upper threshold value of where a couple of points might have exceeded. So early on, we began to look at doing gradient testing with about 40 points across the field so that we could do mapping that gave us a much better appreciation of the dynamics and the changes of those fields. So the one thing that I think is really important to understand is that the day you put a field in, over time it continues to raise in GMAX and get harder. You can maintain it, you can drop it by grooming and maintaining it. But over the course of that field, it is going to increase in hardness, and most of the specifications you should be looking at look at lifetime limits on GMAX in order to keep that down. This was a field we studied in Texas, and they had close to 10, 12 years of data, and you can see that as we continue to age, this particular field was fortunate enough to have a pad on it. So it had been used so much that there was no fiber left, and it was essentially black rubber. But even at that, after 12 years, we started to see some areas of those fields exceeding what we would recommend safe limits. So when we take our testing and we put it over a gradient system, we can see sort of mid-range in there as being the optimum depth of infill for these particular fields.